Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Broyans Farm. I just got down here to the farm with Sammy. She is sanitizing our greenhouse flats now that the season is over with. Just saves us a job later in the winter. We always seem to wait, and then, you know, in the winter time when it's freezing cold, we're out here washing flats and sanitizing flats. Now we're getting it done, even though it's about 200 degrees in this greenhouse right now. I think the thermometer, yeah, it's actually maxed out. I don't know if you can read that. That's 120. It might not actually be 200, but it's definitely at least 150. So that's why Sammy's doing it outside and just bringing the trays inside here. That way, if it rains or gets windy, all those are still gonna stay clean and not get dirty. So this here is Oxidate or Jet Ag. Basically just a cleaning solution, sanitizes it, but we have to let it soak in there, whatever it is, whether it's the flats or trays, or these are actually for our plugs. We'll let it sit in there for like 5 to 10 minutes. If it needs to be flipped, we'll flip it, and then just like I showed you, it'll go back in there to the tables and dry off. So it's the next day, walking down to the farm. Again, we got more rain last night. We've been getting rain like crazy. I wish we could have, you know, spread this out a little bit earlier in the season so that we didn't have to irrigate so hard and run our pond dry, but you know, at least we're getting the rain now. But the only problem is we're trying to get our rows between our tomatoes sprayed for all the weeds and trying to get in the field to lay our plastic for the strawberries, and we just can't get it done because it's always too wet. The potatoes are starting to come out with flowers now. You almost can't walk in the field, it's so muddy. But they're really nice, dark green, look extremely healthy, and that's what we want to see. A little more blank spots than normal, but I think that's just from the dry weather. But you can still see some small plants coming, so they have some time to make something of themselves, so we'll see. Dad just went through and got him hilled. He said he would like to have done it a second time, but if he would try it, what's probably going to happen is he's going to bang up and bruise the actual plant itself. So he said one time will be enough. 2 times just would have been ideal. So right here is the tractor and sprayer set up for between the rows. Wow, I don't know if you can see all the bugs flying right there. And it can't even be the slightest bit breezy. You can see the grass just barely moving, and that's too much, because if that weed killer happens to drift on the plant, it could not only injure it, but in extreme cases could kill it. And that's obviously something we don't want to gamble on. So we're just gonna try and wait another morning and then try it again. Hopefully we can get in, because not only is the grass and the weeds getting very bad, but the tomatoes are also getting taller, which means the tractor is soon not gonna fit over top of them. You should see bare dirt through this whole drive road there, and it's almost solid green. But we'll get it taken care of one way or another. If I have to, or if me and Dad have to, we'll get the backpack sprayers out and we'll do it by hand, because that's even more directed and a little bit safer than the pull behind sprayer or the 3-point hookup sprayer. But the problem is that it just takes a lot longer. Sammy made a lot of progress yesterday with the flats. You can see all the tables and trays and seed trays stacked up here. Now this is all sanitized. We're gonna pack it in black garbage bags, and then we'll be ready for the next season. It looks really cool though, everything's stacked up the way it is. Dad wanted me to turn on the drip line here in the high tunnel. We're also gonna fertilize for the first 20 minutes. And while I was fertilizing, I took a walk around and I thought I seen a red tomato. Now watch, I won't be able to find it. Here it is. Sometimes the first ones turn right because there's something wrong with them. And I was right, sadly. Looks beautiful on one side, flip it over and it's ugly. I could give it to Pap. He would probably use that. Maybe that's what I'll do, just so it doesn't go to waste. But it definitely is not going to be long. The tomatoes are getting to a nice size now, and they're going to be turning red here. It's Tuesday, so that means we're not open today on 4th of July, and we weren't open yesterday on Monday, because we're just never open on Mondays. That also means that tomorrow, Wednesday, is probably going to be very busy. So Dad went out this morning and picked a bunch of our cole crops. It's always better to pick that stuff in the morning when it's colder, or at least a little bit cooler. It's still very muggy out. It's got the morning dew on it, and the sun really hasn't come out yet. And so now I came down to the garlic field. I'm gonna pick some garlic. That way when we open up tomorrow, we can just take all our stuff out of the cooler, set it up, it'll be nice and fresh, and we can start selling. Now, I showed you before the garlic. This patch right here is a little bit smaller than what it is as you get out over the hill, and I can even see that by the stem size. Not a big deal. We don't charge by the bulb because the girls at the market, it's hard for them to distinguish what a $1 size bulb is, what a $2 size bulb is, and so we just do it by the pound. So I'm just gonna go through here, clean the row. I'm gonna get some big ones, some mediums, probably some on the smaller size, but that's okay. Gonna pick about 20 to 30 bulbs, and then again, they'll be ready for tomorrow. Now, we did just get some more rain last night, so these pull out pretty nice. That's like a medium sized, medium sized, medium size. Yeah, that's kind of good. We like to have them all around the same size. Just makes it nicer. This one's probably gonna be smaller. I can see just by the stem. Well, actually, the whole top pulled right off of that. It's very slimy. I'll have to get that one later. We never, if it's very dry, pull these out when it's obviously dry, because what happens is this will happen, or you'll actually break it off right here. The bulb will be left in the ground and the top will just pull off. Then we have to get a fork and dig them out. So when it's like this, it's okay, but if it's any drier than this, we might have an issue. And it should also be noted, and we have a sign at the market, that this garlic isn't for storing. It's still not quite ready. The toes aren't just quite as developed as they should be. And so it's great if you're gonna use it for fresh salsa or whatever you're gonna make within the next week or two. But if you're gonna wanna keep it all year, or at least for a couple months, it's probably not the best choice. That one was kind of on the smaller side. That was a nice one. Another nice one. This one here I can tell is gonna be very tiny. I'm gonna let it go. Hopefully give it some more time to grow. Normally when we cut garlic for drying or just to sell for the season, we'll cut it a lot shorter than that, but because, like I said, it's more like fresh garlic and not made to be stored, I cut it longer. I don't know, that's just something I do. Tiny one. The funny part is, this last year was almost an average size bulb with the lack of rain we had. So there's my garlic I'm about to wash off. That actually got some little heads of broccoli, lettuce, kohlrabi, and Mom just put the kale in the back of the car right there. That broccoli's pretty nice. Dad just got done spraying. He's backing into the shed right now. He's gonna go spray the peppers, I think he said. All of our cole crops and red beets and even the zucchini look beautiful. But our pickles here, we're pretty sure got infested with cucumber beetle, and I don't think I can find any now because he just sprayed them and probably killed them all. But the leaves obviously shouldn't look brown and cracked like that. They should be nice and green. And that's the way they looked about a week ago. And in a week's time, you can see how bad they got. Every single one of them is the same exact thing. You can see the little tiny pickles on there. And so hopefully that's gonna take care of them. And we're thinking that in about a week or two, they should be back to normal again, but we'll see what happens. Frank's down here weed whacking the pasture. He's been keeping it down pretty good. Only weed whacking about a foot or two on each side of the fence just to keep all the weeds off of it and keep it from grounding out. But he's a trooper, that's for sure. So you can see the weeds aren't too bad. They're just about up to the bottom metal line there. Only the lines though with the plastic on them are powered. You got zapped?
Well, 4 times.
Jeez.
It's accidental, you know. You're mowing away and trying to make space and nothing.
Wow. Well, it looks good. It's getting hot already though, that's for sure. As much as Frank looks like a mess, he loves what he does. He loves weed whacking, probably more than anything. And so we just let him do it, even though it's very hot and it's kind of wet out. He said that the water from the grass kind of cools him off a little bit. So that's up to him, whatever makes him happy, I guess. So while he's doing that though, you can see the big truck behind me. We changed the engine oil and the fuel filters on that, but now I gotta run downtown and grab some fuel and oil filters for the reefer. We've never actually changed either one, so it was a new experience for us yesterday. I went and got my filters, got them over there on the rack, got the truck backed in, and currently the oil is draining out of the reefer here. Should just about be done. Yeah, just dripping there a little bit yet. And then right here, it's nice, everything's labeled, is my fuel filter. Here's my bypass oil filter. And then that is just my regular oil filter right there. And from what I understand, what I was explained, this is what gets used first. And then if this would for some reason get clogged, the oil can pass through here. This line here though is very convenient because, you know, there's almost no mess. Just had this cap here, took it off, and it drains right into the bucket. This bucket happened to be perfect size. I actually got really nervous because I didn't exactly know how much oil was in here. And so I had to quick go down the ladder, grabbed another bucket, which is now right there, and got ready, but then I noticed this was slowing down and I was gonna be all okay. So it's the next day. I reached a stumbling block when I was trying to get the oil filters off. I got the oil bypass filter off, but I couldn't get the main oil filter off, which is this one right here. And even with one of these, it doesn't help because I can't get it in there to turn it. And so I have one of these, which is basically the same thing, but again, I can't turn it. And loosening it by hand isn't an option because it's way too tight. And so I called my buddy. He's gonna actually come over here in a little bit and help me get that off. I did order some sockets, or it's kind of like a socket to take them off. You just put it on a wrench or an impact wrench and you can pop it right off with no problem. That way, next time I don't have this issue. And also, Sammy, my mom and dad, and my cousin went rattlesnake hunting yesterday, which is pretty cool. Here's a picture of Sammy holding one or standing next to one. We had a blast. We actually caught, I think, 7 or 8 rattlesnakes altogether, timber rattlesnakes, but none of them were really above like, I think 36, 38 inches, something like that. And right out here, we have the tractor with the shield sprayer hooked up to it. I actually finally got the tomatoes done this morning, or, you know, the bare ground between the tomatoes, so all those weeds are now dead. My buddy came, got the filter off, which was a lot more of a struggle than I think he expected it to be. Got the fuel filter off, replaced them both, filled it back up with oil, and I think we're ready to go. Come in the truck here. This is, I don't know if you want to call this a monitor or starter, whatever you want to call it. That powers it on, and it will turn on automatically now. But the thing is that it has to prime itself. I don't know if you can hear that clicking. And just before it starts up, I gotta shut it off and do that like 3 or 4 times. Maybe even 6 times, I think the guy told me. That way it can prime all the way up there or it's just not gonna start. So I can tell it's just about to start. Here we go for like another 5 or 6 seconds. And shut it off. And then it's shut off. Do it again. I'm a little bit nervous. I've never done this before, and so I hope it starts. I mean, there's nothing I really could have done wrong. If something was wrong, it would be leaking. And the only thing that I could have done wrong was, you know, not tighten the oil filter or the fuel filter up correctly. Here we go. See if she starts. If it doesn't start, I might have to prime it again. And yes, I did spill some oil. Trying to work up there on this ladder at the top step. There she goes. So it's telling me right now it's 78.2 degrees in the box. I have it set for 70. I'm gonna let it run for like 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'll check the oil again and make sure everything's okay. You can see the temperature's already dropping. Wait for it. There it goes. So the truck is now serviced and ready to go, which is a good thing because tomorrow I'm going out to pick up, I think, 6 bins of sweet corn we're gonna be working out at the Blues Fest or Briggs Festival, selling our sweet corn like we did last year. And so that's what I'm gonna use to go pick it up. So that's what I'm gonna call it a wrap for this video. As always, thank you guys for watching, and always remember, it ain't much, but it's honest work.